maybe that's what it is. Instagram made some updates. So maybe that's why. Nevertheless, we here, y'all. What is going on, family, cousins, and kin folks? Today was a big day. However, one of the things I want to first tell you guys is no matter what happened today, that means if your score went up, your score went down, your score didn't change. Guess what? You still bagging these acceptance. And guess what else? You still going to become a lawyer. And so I wanted to make sure and start that and let that be known. But nevertheless, as our room fills up, I'm so excited. This week we've gotten so many people in law school that I literally have had to kind of make a schedule of when to release them. So we have a lot of acceptances that's going to be happening. And for you guys out there who need help getting into law school, I'm always a DM away because I want to help you guys. I want to celebrate you guys getting into law school because I believe that everybody can be a lawyer, period. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what your LSAT score is. All we need is one yes. So as our room fills up, I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited to be able to have you guys here tonight. We got a special guest on. And I really want you guys to be able to lean in on this process. I know it's a lot of people right now that are definitely in panic mode. I've definitely responded to a lot of you guys in my DMs. But nevertheless, I want you guys to really lean into this conversation that we're going to have today. I want you guys to participate in this conversation. We're talking about mental health, y'all. We're talking about self-care. We're talking about anxiety. We're talking about ADHD. All things that a lot of law students, a lot of aspiring lawyers are going through. And a lot of things you guys could be able to get help with wherever you are in your journey. This whole lawyer thing, y'all, it ain't got nothing to do with IQ. It ain't got nothing to do with intelligence. But it has everything to do with you being able to learn about you. Learning how you operate. Learning what's best for you. Not just school-wise. Learning how you learn. And so as our room fills up, I want you guys to do as we usually do. Let us know where it is where you're viewing our session from. Of course, I'm holding it down over here, freezing my butt off in St. Louis, Missouri. So where you're viewing our session from, you guys, we got Mickey in the house. We got VDA in the house. We got Dr. Jeffers in the house. We got Fella Bella in the house. What's good? We got Hello Pretty in the house. We got Jam Inspired in the house. So let us know where it is that you're viewing our session from. What's going on, Miss Assel? What's going on, Relax? So as our room fills up, let us know where you're viewing our session from. What's going on, Alex? What's going on, sis? And so I want you guys to realize and really lean into this conversation. I'm excited for this. We are booked, you guys, for guests all the way up until May, which is a blessing, which means that we have people coming in town from all walks of life to help you. And so I'm excited, and I hope these sessions have been informative. If, in fact, you have missed the episode of Making the Case, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure that's in the link in our bio. Because I want to make sure that you guys have the resources that you need to navigate this journey. So we got Maryland in the house. We got Daytona Beach in the house. We got Bama holding it down. Roll Tide. Illinois. What's up? And so, again, one of the things I like to tell you guys is I don't know where you are in your journey. But wherever you are in your journey, I want you to be able to say that you've come to our session. What's going on, Sammy? And I want you to be able to say that you came away with something. And so if, in fact, mental health, anxiety, ADHD aren't things that you need, well, fam, I want you to go ahead and type in the chat box what it is that you do need. And I promise you, I make an oath, and I do this every session, that whatever question is thrown in our chat box, we going to answer it, okay? Because we want to make sure that you get fed tonight, y'all. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get the doc on the line. What's going on? I'm Original. What's going on, Mickey T? STL. Okay. And so let's go ahead and get the doc on. And let's go ahead and dive into some things. And I want you guys to participate in this discussion. I want you guys to ask questions. I ran in the house. That's what's up. I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys to realize that this is going to be a resource for you to be able to get answers that you need. Because we want you guys to understand that when you are operating at your best self, that's when we're doing the damn thing, okay? And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get Dr. Jeffers on, who's been gracious enough to be able to join us. Did it work the first time? What's going on, King? And so let's go ahead and try to get her on again. She joined. What's going on, Doc? How we doing today, sis?
Hey, how are you guys?
I am
Good to
blessed.
see
I
you.
am blessed. I
Can you
am
hear me?
so excited to get you on here because I remember when I was going through Instagram, sis, boy, you said something in one of your posts that just really hit me at the core. It was talking about anxiety and stress. And I remember I was talking to some students and they was just like, I'm taking the test. I'm practicing. I'm practicing. But then all of a sudden I take this test and everything goes left. And a lot of times it's because we really don't know ourselves. And we're not machines, you
True.
know? And you said some very powerful words about anxiety. So before, of course, we dive into discussions, I want to give you the floor to introduce yourself, tell them who you are, and drop, of course, your experience that you got in this field, sis.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Kendra Jeffers, and let's see, I'm a licensed therapist. Actually, I'm master's level, but not PhD, not yet.
Are we speaking it
Um,
forward? We claiming it.
yes. And let's see, I'm also a professional life coach as well. So I have had the opportunity to work in various settings to help people with from anxiety, depression, ADHD, but my specialization is actually anxiety and ADHD. And so I have worked in the whole K through all the way to the collegiate level with helping people. I've worked in college admissions. I worked in elementary as a school counselor. I've been a college administrator in two different universities. I have been in private practice since 2012. So you name it in education. I've been an assistant principal as of I ended that career in education over 20 years back in 2022. So I guess I've been around the block a little bit when it comes to education, a little something.
I think you got enough experience to be able to help the folks out. And so, because one of the things that oftentimes happens, and I want you guys again, fill up the chat box with questions, all right? I'll call you guys
Yes,
out, not
please do.
because I'm trying to embarrass you, but because, bam, I want you guys to take advantage of this opportunity. And everything I do, when I call you out, it's all out of love because I want you guys to win. I want you guys to back these acceptances. I want you guys to pursue excellence. And I want you guys to manifest everything that you dream. And one of the things that's beautiful is this sis right here has been doing that for people starting in college, starting in elementary, and she wants to
Yes.
make sure and taking time to make sure that she can be able to do it for you. And so do not come away from this session saying that you don't know, because I want to make sure that you do know. Anissa, all love, sis. You better ask some questions, sis. And so oftentimes, so I want to just dive into it. When we
Okay.
talk about anxiety,
Yeah.
it's almost like that taboo thing. You know,
Yeah.
oftentimes we've told that we got to be tough. We got to be able to. I oftentimes the downfall of the hustle mentality, where we're always just hustling, always grinding, and we've kind of normalized some of the struggles. So I want you to first be able. It may sound like a simple question, but what are some of the signs of anxiety that people may oftentimes experience that they overlook?
Well, first of all, I like to say that anxiety is quite normal, and it's when you think about it, it is actually something that we need to survive. And so when you think about the fight, fright, or the stress response, that we've all heard of fight, flight, or freeze. And so could you imagine if we didn't have that mechanism that is within us to keep us out of danger? So that's the first thing. We all have it, and it fluctuates based on what's happening. And so some of the symptoms that occur, we have their physical symptoms. Sometimes people have where they may feel nauseated, they may have trembling or crying or sweating. Some people overthink a whole lot. I call it the thinking tornado, where you start with one thought, and then next thing you know, you're in this spiraling effect of just thinking about things. And a lot of times that thinking is involving things that either have happened in the past, we call that worrying, and then or happening in the future, we call that rumination, where you're operating in the what if. Well, what if this happened, and what if that happened? Does that sound familiar to anybody? So another type that it shows up with social anxiety, and that there has been an incline of that, where you decide to not really socialize with people, go out, or either when you do go out, there you're feeling overwhelmed with being around a group of people. So there has been an incline of that since the pandemic, because if you think about it, we've gone from being told that, oh, you need to be quarantined for 2 weeks, then they extended it for a month, and next thing you know, it was months. So then after that, it was okay. Now you can go out into the public. So then we had to figure out how to navigate that. So there has been an influx of. I have a lot of my clients coming in saying, "Okay, I get nervous or overwhelmed when I have to go out and engage with people." So all of those are symptoms as it relates to anxiety, and there are different types of it. So, but go ahead with your next question. I hope I answered
Oh,
that. Your
definitely. And
questions for
I
now.
just,
Okay.
again, for you guys who just joined, what we're with Miss Jeffers, who's all about anxiety, expert in this field, who's committed her life, committed her career to helping people overcome
Hmm.
some of these challenges. And so, one of the things, the calling cards of what she said, Rashida, is she said, "Man, this is normal. It's
It is.
normal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay." But I think
Hmm.
oftentimes, when I think someone popped up in the question, it's just like, okay, so I got these feelings. What, what do I do to manage them? Because sometimes, boy, coming up test day or preparing to apply to law school, oftentimes we just kind of, how do we prepare to face it? Because we know it's coming. Ooh, boy, I remember when finals happened for me the first time, I experienced anxiety attacks like I've never had before in my life.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
when I got back into law school, sis, I was like, okay, test time is coming. I got to be
Mm-hmm.
ready. I got to be ready. So how do we prepare?
So look at it as your body's preparing you to perform. Okay. So you go from just with anything like so what's happening is when your body is perceiving that there's something that is set before you to get ready, so it tends to dump cortisol into your system. Cortisol is important because it's responsible for our breathing. It wakes us up in the morning. It prepares us for exercising. So it's like, okay, well, it's taking in all of this. Our brain is taking in all of this information from all of our senses, and so then it filters it out, and it says, okay, it goes to the amygdala. The amygdala is the part of the brain that is kind of like the muscles, to say, okay, well, let me get you ready to fight, let me get you ready to freeze, and let me get you ready to flee. So if you think about it, when that cortisol is dumped into your system, whether it, and I know it's uncomfortable because it's like, oh my goodness, I'm nervous, my palms are sweating, but it's the body's really doing its job to prepare you to perform. Okay, so that's one way of reframing it. So now let's talk about what happens when that occurs. I suggest, because I used to suffer with panic attacks. Okay, I've gone to the ER with panic attacks. Okay, and so I've been almost 9 years in recovery. And what I learned was that when I tried to fight what was happening, I was dumping more cortisol into my system.
And so when you
So
say
when that
fight,
fight
because I think people
meaning
may be doing that too. When you say fight, what are some of the ways that we're fighting it, which is actually make exacerbating the process?
So some of the ways that we fight it is that we try to quell what's happening by, oh my goodness, it's happening again. I don't want to be embarrassed. Where we talk about it, we're fearful of it because when you have a panic attack, and you probably felt this, it feels like impending doom, like you are dying. You don't know if you're having a heart attack or or what's happening with your body. And I'll get into why we have panic attacks. But so I say lean into it by acknowledging through real time. Okay, right now I'm afraid. I say talk about it, express it. I'm afraid. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Whatever those emotions or thoughts that are coming out, you call it out. Then what you do is you go into your breathing, the deep breathing, and I'm talking about the deep belly breathing, not that upper chest breathing, because the upper chest breathing, that you see people back in the day where they had the paper bag and they breathe into it, that's not helping because that's not allowing the body to get enough oxygen. So you're exacerbating it by the hyperventilation. So by taking the deep breaths, you start your deep breathing through the diaphragm up and back. And then that starts to regulate your nervous system. Think about it. When you take yoga, what do they have you start doing?
Breathe.
Taking deep breaths.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of Lamaze class? When they would teach the pregnant women how to prepare for labor, they start with the deep breathing. The deep breathing regulates your body, your nervous system, and it allows you to focus as well. You think about it, it centers everything. So while you're doing your deep breathing, I want you to visualize, and you have to practice this. Don't wait until the big game to do this. You practice visualizing your place of peace and serenity. Think about that place. Most people, oh, I like to go to the beach. Well, imagine that you're sitting on the beach, then if you were to align your breathing with the waves coming in and out, that is regulating your system. So you're breathing, you're visualizing, and I guarantee you within a few minutes, your body will start to calm down.
So I want you guys to tell me in the chat some places or things that you would visualize. I think for me, I would just visualize this driving on a Sunday afternoon, beautiful weather, beautiful sun. Because wow, I realize and think for a lot of people, what I tell people is like, I just bombed the LSAT. I'm about to take it again. And one of the things is like, but if we're not working on ourselves, then we're just going to repeat the same process again. Because I know one of the things, sis, I used to do, and now I realize I wasn't helping the situation. Sometimes I just jump. Because I get nervous every time I'm about to start a live to do the show. I'm like, okay. Then let's just go ahead and do the show and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I guess eventually you kind of get over it. But also one of the things that I want to ask you is just like, how did you go about learning this from your own personal experience? You could talk about how you were able to overcome some of your struggles that you had so people could be able to see, okay, I was going through some of those experiences and sis made it out. Sis made it out and actually helping other people make it out too. So I want to definitely give you the floor to share your story as well.
Okay, so back in 2015, leading up to that, I was in private practice helping people. So it's one thing to help people from afar. You're like, oh, okay, I can help you with that. And my anxiety was fluctuating, but it wasn't anything that was like severe at that time. So fast forward 2015, I moved my family and I take a teaching position over in the Middle East, over in Abu Dhabi. So we're there. We had just gotten there in August. Here it is, November, right before Thanksgiving or going into the week of Thanksgiving. I ended up losing two of my sisters and my aunt. They all passed away within a 2-week period.
Jesus.
So we're trying to get acclimated, being new to the region, and hearing about the compounding deaths, it sent my mental health into a spiral.
Right.
Because, it's like, all of that happened. So as I was going through that, I started having panic attacks. I thought I was dying, and because of what was happening. So I ended up in the ER, and they were like, everything is all right. So it had got to the point I was fearful of the panic because here I am at work trying to work, and it had gotten to the point it was controlling my life. And then what didn't help was that in that country, in the UAE at the time, mental health was taboo. So there
Mm,
was no one around for me to seek any type of mental health therapy because it was something that wasn't talked about. So here I was going my search to find someone. I found a therapist who was international, but we would talk about it, but then I had to figure out my own way.
right.
So then I started doing more research on it and learning about how the body would work as far as cortisol levels and stress. And then I was exercising, but I found out that I was doing the wrong type of exercises for what was happening. So I was
Mm,
out there, high intensity walking and all of that stuff, and my body was already stressed. So when you're normally already stressed, and then I'm dumping more cortisol and stress onto it, then I couldn't figure out why was I having a panic attack after I exercise. You would think that that would help alleviate it, right? And that was doing the complete opposite. So I learned that, okay, I need to figure out the right exercise that worked for me. And at the time, it was walking, but it wasn't at that high pace. Doing yoga, Pilates, and for some people do Tai Chi or stretching. So I was like, okay, let me do my little yoga here. Let me do that. The other thing that I recognized was that, or found out, was that naturally or genetically, I'm more sensitive to caffeine.
mm.
Caffeine can contribute, and induced caffeine and alcohol consumption can inflate your anxiety and nervousness. So then I was like, okay, let me taper back on that.
So
The
does
other,
that mean like pulling those all-nighters with the 5-hour energy
yes,
and coffee and the coke could actually be causing some of the anxiety that you experience? Wow.
yes, yes. The other thing that could be a contributor is sleep. You just talked about pulling the all nighter. So when we do not get consistent REM sleep, that's the rapid eye movement sleep, then that does not help with calming our amygdala. Our amygdala is like, okay, I'm ready to go. So when our sleep is off, when we're not doing the right exercises, when we're consuming a whole lot of caffeine or alcohol, also trauma, because I had experienced some trauma. Um, Stress was the other culprit. And believe it or not, anxiety can be hereditary, but just like anything else with hereditary, we can work to help reduce it if it gets out of hand. And anxiety also could be something that's based on how we were parented as a kid. So, with putting all of that together, that is how I was able to keep my panic attacks at bay. And also taking some supplements that I found, like magnesium is a really good supplement, magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate, if not the combination of the two, because most of us are deficient in magnesium and we don't, and that's something that our doctors do not test for. So, taking magnesium supplements can help with, it's a natural muscle relaxer. Have you ever heard of Epsom salt?
Yes,
And
for
they
your
would
bones,
tell
for
you,
your muscles,
yes,
right? When you're sore.
yes, that is magnesium. So if you notice, it helps with relaxing you. With the overthinking, here's a tip that I found out from a friend of mine whose sister was a psychiatrist, because I had been taking melatonin with trying to go to sleep.
Hmm.
Well, melatonin didn't help me, but magnesium helps to calm your mind, especially if you're up overthinking at night. It can help calm your mind so you can go to sleep. So I went around the mulberry bush with that, but that is how I was able to help with going into recovery or being in recovery with what's happening. I'm always in tune with what's happening around me and what's happening inside of me
Oh, wow.
to help with
So,
my
so for you
anxiety.
guys who just joined us, we are here with Miss Jeffers. She's a specialist, specializes in ADHD, anxiety, mental health, all
Mhm.
committed to be able to help people be their best versions of themselves. Now, sis, in the comments, we got someone saying, Oh my God, I can't have caffeine if I can't pull all-nighters.
You can have caffeine, it's just in moderation.
And trying to figure out, okay, so what do I do? And so for those people who right now, because I know a lot of people, this is the mentality that I grew up with, and a lot of people grew up, and probably you grew up with too.
Mm-hmm.
We just grind until we grind all nighters, caffeine, keep them pushing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the substitutes that they could do to replace that so that way they don't have those outbursts of anxiety?
So, some of the substitutes that they could do, especially when you're grinding, and I've been there in grad school, I write a paper overnight. Um, and so making sure that, when as you're going through that, making sure you're eating the right foods, your diet, your gut health is important
Wow.
because that is like the epicenter when it comes to our mental health, believe it or not.
Mm.
So if we don't have enough good flora in our gut, oh, we could potentially have depression or anxiety. So as you are moving through law school or your life and what have you, making sure that you're taking a really good probiotic or eating fermented foods to help with your gut health. So that's going to help you as you're going through those more stressful times of the year or periods of the year is the gut health, the diet, getting the sleep that you need as much as you can. Even if you are up like overnight, taking some cat naps, or just taking moments where you can kind of unplug for 10 minutes, doing like a 10-minute meditation if possible through the Calm app. Um, so taking your step back. So eating, drinking your water, your probiotics, taking certain supplements. L-theanine is another one that's really good with helping balancing the stress. So the whole idea too is finding ways to manage or balance out your cortisol levels because that's where the stress comes in. So
Okay.
there are different types of supplements that help with balancing cortisol levels.
And so I want you, one of the things that I've been saying to people, sis, and I want you to tell me what you think about this, right? And
Right.
so one of the examples I use is to say, how often do our phones update? Literally, the reason why we were late starting was because Instagram did an update. How often do our phones update? All the time.
All the
But this is
time.
the
Hmm.
question. How often do we update?
Mm, that's a good
And
question.
so, in aligning with what Ms. Jeffers is talking about here, you guys, I want you guys to realize oftentimes one of the struggles that we have is that we're not updating ourselves. A lot of us, Sean, what's going on, brother, is that we are operating on the same mindset that we had, let's be honest, high school, middle school, eating the same things, expecting different results.
Mm-hmm.
To think that everything plays a role here. And oftentimes, sometimes our prep, it's not about our preparations, it's not about our studying. Like Sister said, it's about the fact that we're not updating ourselves. I had
Mm-hmm.
to kind of stop eating my 3 double cheeseburgers from McDonald's with just mustard and
Yeah.
ketchup and then wonder why I'm not ready for my bar exam or why I'm not able to get through without having to go to the bathroom. And so
Yeah.
it's a full picture here. And I think one thing that's beautiful about this is that I hope you guys are able to understand what Miss Jeffries is really sharing with you guys is how important it is for you to be able to take an agency over this process. So you have the ability to be able to control what you eat, control
Yes.
what you think, to be intentional in your preparation. The same attention and detail that you guys are putting forward towards LSATs, towards bar prep, towards law school. Are we putting that towards ourselves? We have to answer that question. And I tell you guys, for a lot of us, I'll be honest, nope, not.
Mm-hmm.
We're not forgetting that this is kind of the whole engine that kind of operates everything.
Yes, it does. It's holistic. It's a holistic approach
And so I want
to
to
it.
jump in some of these questions because I'm sure people have a lot of questions. Fella Bella, keep the questions coming, sis. One of your, she says, right now I'm studying at night, 3 to 5 hours a night, and I need substitutes. how do I combat procrastination?
Oh, oh yes, procrastination. Okay. So, when it comes to procrastination, there's a such thing as called a procrastination loop. So the question is, what is it that, what are some of the feelings that come up before the procrastination or that's causing the procrastination? You know, what are the thoughts around it? Is it, oh, this is too overwhelming. I can't get it done. I'm always stressed out. So that's the first thing, identifying what comes up as far as the thoughts and feelings about that particular task that you're procrastinating. The other aspect of it is what are you getting out of um, to um, yeah, because we do things like that because there's something that we're getting from it, whether it's avoidance,
Okay.
withdrawal, a delay in something. What is it? All right. And so if I say this, if you can do, and I have to say this to myself sometimes when it comes to working out, Kendra's 24 hours in a day. You can do 5 minutes of this. So there's a method that's called, we used to do this with the kids at school. We call it chunking and timing, or it's called the Pomodoro method, where you take a timer and you break up a larger task into smaller increments. But to get started, we say, let's try 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes to get started. When you say, can you at least do 2 minutes of it? Most people will be like, I could do 2 minutes,
Yeah.
you know, because you're breaking it down in a smaller point. If you could do 2 minutes, then continue until you're done. But if it's the Pomodoro method is you can, if you don't have a problem getting started, if it becomes overwhelming, the whole task at hand, if it's a large task, break it up into 25-minute increments with 5-minute breaks.
Mm.
So that breaks up the monotony. That gives yourself a break, a brain break in between it, and then you come back to it. The other part is when you decide to do that task, making sure that you are physically or mentally, that's the right time to do it.
Mm.
Because just because we put things on our calendar, that doesn't mean that we actually feel that that's the right time of the day for us to do it. Some people work better late at night. Some people do certain things early in the morning. So figuring out what's the best time of the day that you're the most productive.
Wow. Falabella, I think she answered your questions and left no crumbs. Let's go ahead and see what else we got here. All right, let's see here. Okay, so I guess when we were talking about overwhelming, Carmen was saying, I'm experiencing that now. I like to live, but it does not help me feel happier.
They like to lift.
So I think that was when you started talking, sis, when you talked about that high intensity working out as a way to try to relieve stress wasn't working. And
Yes.
so that's what Carmen was trying to do, and it wasn't helping her.
Okay, so I recommend to Carmen is to explore some other exercises that might be helpful to her, like if she goes by her, because I don't want to offend anybody um, with everything. So looking at so lifting wasn't helpful. So what are some other options there? Could you do Pilates? Because that's not necessarily lifting, but that's strength training. Could you do some yoga? Could you, it's just exploring other, as far as the stress part, you're looking for things that don't, exercises that don't cause you to produce more cortisol than you need. And so those types would be walking, those would be the Pilates, the yoga, Tai Chi, that type of thing.
And I think the thing that's amazing is just like what we have to seem what we have to do is be attentive to the warning signs that our body is giving us.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Okay, analogy. So I consider most of us have been in a car. You've started a car before. Okay, so let's say that anxiety is like the check engine light in the car, right? So you're going along for the most part, unless there's a something going on that needs to be attended in that car. And I'm not even saying anxiety, I'm gonna say panic. Um, the light doesn't come on, or if it does, it fluctuates, it comes off when you start it, start the car. So you're going along and everything is all right, but then when there starts to be some type of imbalance, or it's like a warning signal that comes on, that check engine light comes on. So that's your body when you start to feel more nervous or more overwhelmed. That's your body saying, hey, I may need some more sleep. Hey, I may, and more stressed out. So if we don't take care of that as we're going through it, we find ourselves in a panic attack, which is when the vehicle has stopped working, and needs servicing. So if you look at it that way, like, you know what, let me be in tune with what's happening with my body. I know I have a lot going on, but let me check in here. Have I been eating right? Have I been, drinking am I dehydrated? Like, what's happening here?
Right. I mean, the thing is, it's like, it's interesting. We're able to communicate and talk about our problems. I wish our body had like a second mouth. Hey, yo, I need some sleep. Hey, yo, put
Yes.
that down. You don't want to be eating that. But
Yes,
oftentimes, we just kind of grin and bear it. Anissa has
we
a
do.
wonderful question here. She says, what are some things can you recommend for me to do to maintain my peace through law school? Because, law school, lawyers have the second high suicide rate out of all the careers outside of counselors and psychiatrists. And so maintaining that weight, what are some recommendations you have for people to be able to have that level of peace that they need during that process where the intensity is next level?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So there's a such thing as called the anxiety
Mm,
equation, where there is in the numerator, it's an overestimation of a problem, a perceived problem or danger,
okay.
right? And then in the denominator, it's an underestimation of our resources to address such perceived problem or danger, right? And so when we talk about resources, we're talking about our strengths. We're talking about our support system, our experiences, culture, all of that comes into play. And so, you know, despite what's happening around you, there's a reason why you're there. And understanding that, yes, you had to go through the process and what have you, but you're bringing something in the door with you. And so, because of that, that is your resource that you're tapping into in order to address and understanding that this process is temporary.
Wow,
It's
that's
not forever.
yeah.
So if you can make it, some days I could only imagine. I remember going to grad school and working full time. It was a lot, but I've never been to law school, so I imagine it's up the ante with that from what I've heard. But just even if it's like, okay, you know what, I got through that class. I was able to get through the day. Sometimes you got to do, yeah, one thing at a time, one step at a time. But eventually you get there. Just reminding yourself of that, supporting, surrounding yourself with supportive people, people who are pouring into you with positivity instead of withdrawing.
Fantastic. Again, we're live and in full effect with Miss Jeffers here, dropping gems, dropping. I hope you guys are paying attention. We got questions up in here. They filling up the chat boxes. And this is one huge one that I have a lot of people facing this. And Anissa added another great question. She said, how do I overcome self-doubt? Because it's not like that voice in your head. It's like, just quit. You can't
Mhm.
do it. Hey, scored a 143. Quit. Hey, you got rejected from one school. Quit. How do you overcome that? Because I think that's like oftentimes a lifetime struggle. I know sometimes I even still deal with that to this day.
Yes. So with anything, there's of course no progress without struggle, but um, looking, reframing it from All right. So calling it out for what it is right now. Um, um, I don't know what's happening. I'm overwhelmed. Whatever it is, calling it out for what it is. But you add an affirmation to that. You know what? It's rough right now. But I have what I need to get through this.
Mm,
I have my support system. You know, have the, you're talking about what you're authentically experiencing, and then you put your butt and you find something there. I can get through this. It's been done before.
mm,
I've gone through high school, I've gone through undergrad. Some people I've even gone through grad school. I've been through a breakup. I've been through this. So, okay, this is just another obstacle right
mm.
now.
And I'm gonna put it in some not so proper words. You
Okay.
ready for this, y'all? You gonna laugh? It's gonna Here it is. You've been through tougher. You done survived worse. Last time I checked, you're pretty strong. You're pretty
Mm-hmm.
resilient,
Mm-hmm.
and people have overcome it before, and you're gonna overcome it again.
Yep.
So that means if you, let's say you bombed your LSAT, I bombed my LSAT, but I'm gonna be a lawyer anyway.
There you
I
go.
failed the bar, but I'm gonna pass it next time.
There
I
you go.
got rejected from law school, but last time I checked, there's 198 other ones. So I just gonna get into one, and so that does actually make you feel a lot better. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it feel as if there's a pathway out.
Yes.
And I think it's also by you saying it, you're kind of talking back to that voice in your head telling you to
You
do it.
are.
Wow, that's powerful. And so my girl Danica, she had a question here, and I think this question also kind of goes along. She said, "When should we tap out?" And I think that's a question more along the lines of, where do we set the boundary between working hard and resting? Because we have to. Because I think like there is so much blurred lines in that area where someone will say, "Man, I busted my butt. I work," and then they feel guilty when they fall asleep,
Mm-hmm.
or they feel as if I
Mm.
rest, then I'm now lazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, instead of it's pretty much um, your body needs to recharge. You got to recharge your batteries. So when you work hard, you go hard, but then also make sure when it's time to rest, you go hard with that too.
I love it.
Too much of anything is not a good thing. So,
And so, because I think people say, "Well, I have a family, I have a job, I'm trying to get into law school, so something has to give."
Mhm.
How do I accept that by taking on these additional responsibilities? Where do I draw the line between accepting that, I'm going to have to work when I'm tired, and then saying I got to get some sleep too? And I think that's the point, because I remember there were nights just where I was working, driving to law school for 2 hours, getting back home, getting the kids down, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. And I hadn't even opened up a law school book yet. And I, of course, I see I was doing things the wrong way. I probably uh, went through so many 5-hour energies and monster drinks to try to stay up. But where do you draw that line between being tired and stepping over that line where you're doing a disservice because you're not giving your body what it needs for you to avoid those issues like anxiety and being prepared?
so I used to work overnights when I was an undergrad. I would work 11 to 7 and then go to class. And I know that is crazy, but what I found is that, sometimes taking a power nap can actually help to your to recharge you. Like I literally could doze off for 30 minutes and then I'd be up 4 hours. So give yourself that time because you're working on fumes. How
Yeah.
productive do you think you could be if here it is 2:30 in the morning, you have not had any sleep since, you know, earlier that day? How much work do you really think you'll be able to take in trying to study? And if you were to lay down and say, you know what, let me give myself 30 minutes, an hour, and then get back up and see what I could do.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, them 30-minute power naps,
Power
woo,
naps
boy.
are it.
But then and I think what it also could be for a lot of people is they fear that if they try a power nap, I've had this happen before, sis, and I not wake up.
Do not wake up.
Your body's like, they're down. Unplug the battery.
Yes,
Silence the
yes,
alarm. We about to get some sleep. But I think it's also
yes,
because if it hasn't become a pattern, your
yes,
body is not accustomed to it. And so it has to become a
yes,
pattern.
yes.
And so we have some other questions. You got, and this is another one. Let's see here. And thank you, Alex, for your question. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Fella. Thank you,
Thanks
Anissa.
to
Let's see
everybody for
here.
your questions. These are good
Alex
questions.
said, I believe I have ADHD, but I'm afraid to get tested as I don't want the remedy to be medication. How can I attack this?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
this your bag,
Good
all your
question.
bag right here.
Yes, yes, yes. So if you believe you have ADHD, that doesn't mean, let's say that you do meet the criteria. That's not like a true medication is not just the next step automatically. So I've worked with clients who have found out that they have ADHD or suspect that they have ADHD, and we talk about how it's impacting their lives, and we put together plans. A lot of times it's getting into a routine or setting positive habits. And the procrastination comes up for them. So we talk about that because it's one thing. On the other side of that coin is there are people who are medicated, but still their life is in disarray because they don't have the right tools in place or strategies that can help them. So to answer your question, you can still get tested, but you don't have to take the
Right.
medication if they're recommending it. It's up to you. There are some supplements that could help with focusing. Sometimes people have issues with forgetfulness, so there's ginkgo biloba that might be helpful. That has shown, research has shown that has helped with maintaining memory. Um, Talking with somebody, an ADHD coach, or maybe a therapist to come up with, help you with, like I said, setting routines and combating some of the issues that come up that the ADHD presents itself. So you don't necessarily have to take the medication if you don't choose to, but at least you'll know what you're dealing with.
Right.
And that,
A lot of it, Alex, is going to start with your becoming more informed and educated about this. And I
yeah,
tell people we're now in an amazing age where we have so much access to information that it becomes overwhelming. And I think because of that, oftentimes we do not move. Because
mhm,
once we make that move, then we have to start holding ourselves accountable.
yeah,
And I could be honest with you, and I can speak for myself. I know I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I did take medication. But also, one of the things that I think that Sis says, and I really want you guys to understand, is the importance of being able to create a schedule. For most of our lives, let's just keep it a buck. For most of our lives, we've been operating on a schedule that somebody else made for us.
yes,
Our parents
yeah,
made our schedule. We had our school schedule, in high school, we had our school schedule. In college, we had our work schedule,
yeah,
and now you got to make your own schedule.
yes,
And it sounds easy, but no, it's not, because
right,
oftentimes I know that for me, I was coasting and going, but I had to make a intentional schedule in order for me to be able to realize where to be able to focus my time and my attention. And I mean, sis, I may go excessive with it. Like literally, I had our session
mhm,
on post-its in my bathroom. I had it on my board and my wall. I had it in the office. I had it everywhere. But it was because I had to
Yeah.
learn how to become intentional. And one of the things is about ultimately, Alex, ultimately, you guys, is about learning what works
For
for
you.
you. You can't be
Yes.
in the
Yes.
passenger seat, fam. And I think a lot of times we in the passenger seat expecting it to figure it out. But we got to kind of grab the wheel, man.
Yes. And it will take some work and self-compassion
Yeah.
when, you might drop the ball on something or it doesn't go the way. And I hear this a whole lot. And I even struggled with this myself, where when you set up a routine and you got it all together, and then something happened and throws you off, and you trying to add it back.
Boy.
It is rough. It is rough. But then it's like you got to take it one day at a time. I work with clients that we talk about, okay, well, I want to be able to get up and go to the gym during the week. I used to be able to go every day,
Yep.
Okay, that is great. So I say, okay, well, let's talk about going one day. Why are we trying to go? I know you went 5 days when you did it previously,
Yeah.
but how are we just going to jump out there and say, okay, next week I'm going every day when you haven't been going in months? So let's take it in small steps. Let's talk about setting yourself up for success. Some people, are you going to have your gym clothes right there? So when you do get up, are you taking them with you? Like, so let's talk about what that looks like
Mm.
so we can set you up for success.
And, and applying that towards law school and life, that means hypothetically, sis, if
Yes.
you know I need to get a 150, I want to get a 155 LSAT score, which is a pretty good score. That means that I need to be intentional about it, applying what the expert just told us. How many questions does that mean I have to get right? All right.
Yes.
If I know that's how many questions I got to get right. All right. So that means what are the most common questions that are asked on the LSAT?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Boom. Out of the most questions that are asked on the LSAT, which ones are my strength? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm able to break it down like that, then I'm
Yes.
literally able to build towards getting the 155 LSAT score. Because now I know I can get these questions right, D, and I could be able to get to that pathway. But a lot of times what we doing is we driving like this. 155. How I get it, I don't know. I gotta work harder. I gotta stay up longer. I gotta grind. I gotta grind. Hand me the 5 hour energy. And I want you guys to understand I'm sharing this not to attack you, but also from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Since I don't mind telling people I got dismissed from law school because I was sitting in the passenger side. I was letting life run without me being at the wheel. But it
Mm-hmm.
was beautiful how you said it. But by being intentional at the small steps, then that's the way, almost I feel like for you as well, that's the pathway to kind of relieve your anxiety. Okay,
It is.
155. Okay, how
It is.
need to do? Okay, the law school applications are due this day. I can't do all that in one night, but let me break it down. Okay, let me find the deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find out what St. Mary's needs. Let me find out what FAMU or Thurgood Marshall School of Law needs.
Mm-hmm.
200, 200 words? I could do that on a note. I
Mm-hmm.
can revise it. Take it into small pieces, even just talking it. I hope for you guys hearing it, you're like, yeah, I'm about that. But if you say,
Mm-hmm.
I got 15 applications I got to do, the deadline is March 15th, and I got 15 days, and I ain't got nothing done. Boys, ain't going to happen. Let's see. Here we got some more questions. Sis. And this is people, man, they hungry. Fella Bella, she said, what supplements are good for memory? Because I think what's happened also sometimes is there's so much information out there. It's hard to be able
Yes.
to determine what's credible and what's not. So go ahead and drop some gems from an expert to tell us where we can go to get things that could help us in these areas.
So I'm into like a natural holistic thing. So I do know ginkgo biloba is a really good one for memory. Another one. So what I do to help with my focusing and concentration is I actually drink um, mushroom coffee once a day.
Coffee. Hmm.
They have the mushroom coffee, and I know you're like, oh my gosh, that's coffee. But they actually have a morning blend that does not have any caffeine in it. And the brand is called OM, OM. And so the different types that have reishi mushrooms in there, lion's mane, I think it's called cordyceps mushrooms, but they're really good for immunity and focus and energy. And I actually got that from Whole Foods because they have it in the little packets that you can test out. And I know you're like, oh my goodness. But by drinking that once a day, that has made a world of a difference in allowing me to be able to focus and I not, when you drink regular coffee, at least I had, I would crash in the afternoon. I drink it in the morning and then by that 2 o'clock, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't get through that. I cannot stay awake or I need another one.
Mm.
But I found that by drinking the morning energy that doesn't have the caffeine in it, that has helped me to
Mm.
go through the day. B12 is a really good supplement too that helps with, it gives you energy, but not in a negative way, like not where you crash. So another organization that I use is Apothecary, and that's Apothecary. The instead of it being Apothecary with a C, is with a K, and they have adaptogens in there. It's like a powder that you put in your hot chocolate or your tea or milk, and they have it for stress. There's for concentration, but one of them is called Mind Over Matter,
Mm.
and
Okay.
so you put that in there, and it helps you to stay focused, and it helps with clarity throughout the day and it doesn't have any negative side effects. So those are just some of the products that I use, and I've even in my clients used them as well. So I have no problem sharing that information back to you, Anthony, and you can give to the group if
Oh,
need
absolutely,
be.
sis. I want you to send me a breakdown of what it is. I'm gonna post it in a story, and I know right, fella Bella said I'm getting all of them because I'm like, okay,
Okay.
I think I'll put my Mountain Dew to the side. That's normally $3, and I'm gonna get me some mushroom coffee literally tomorrow. And
Okay.
because I want you guys to be able to understand this, fella Bella wrote it all down. I'm fella Bella. You can go ahead and send it to me because I know I would have messed up the spelling like it was nobody's business. But sis, I want I want to thank you for taking the time to embark and share your knowledge and expertise.
Oh,
And
you're
I hope
more than
everybody out
welcome.
there is don't. I tell people oftentimes with Instagram at times we can get into a process of where we're just consuming the information. I really want
Yes.
you guys. Fella Bella is showing it. I want you guys to also embrace it and use it to change your life because we have to be able
Yes.
to provide. We now it's time for us to do an update. Instagram
Yes.
updated y'all. Now it's time for us to update to find ways to improve our lives to make us become the best version of ourselves. It's not the LSAT's fault. It's our responsibility. And we have the
Absolutely.
power to be able to change that agency. And so one of the things I always like to do before I close this is I like to ask you right now, there's somebody that's struggling. I know I have a lot of them in my DMs right now, and I'll get to you guys when I get a chance. Please, I will. They're thinking about giving up. They're thinking
Mhm.
about, hey, you know what? Maybe this lawyer dream's not for me. Maybe this is a sign from God for me to quit. And I want to give you the last word to provide some encouraging words to them because this is something that I think a lot of people need to be able to hear.
Okay, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here and to talk about these things. But uh, to address that, I think that um, understanding your why in terms of why you're doing it. And I believe in having a living, a purpose-driven life. That's the name of my consulting business. And knowing what your purpose is and allowing that to be the driving force. And I'm also spiritually grounded too. And so with having that foundation, that helps with driving it. And as they talk about, in the Black church, they talk about, nothing's placed on you. God don't put more on you than you can bear. you know. But when you think about it, there's a lot of truth to it. A lot of the things that are thrown at us are things that is a lesson to be learned. It's rough going through it, but you end up overcoming it and stronger and more resilient than it was before you went through it.
Right.
And so if you're at a point of giving up, first of all, is that something that, through divine intervention, is that something you're not supposed to be doing, or is that you talking? Whose voice are you listening to or hearing? And if you've gotten this far, then you're closer to the finish line than you were before you started.
That's true.
So what is it that you need to continue? Do you need support? Do you need what do you need? Remember I talked about the resources, the anxiety equation. What are your resources that you have to help you deal with that perceived danger or problem? And so at the end of the day, you have to be your best cheerleader. Yeah, you have people who are, on the sideline cheering you on, but your journey, your struggle, you know. So as I gave the example earlier, you know what, this is rough. I didn't pass or I didn't score as high enough as I thought I would, but I can do it. But I'm gonna get it done. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like, you got this, but you got to believe it.
Woo.
You have to believe it. I grew up in a household with my parents were illiterate. I'm the only one to go to college, and they did the best that they could. It wasn't easy, and it was a struggle. And I'm here. I'm a business owner. I'm a mom. But I'm not saying that to tout or anything with my success. Who would have thought that, here I am, this kid who I had to fill out my own paperwork, to do certain things when I learned how to read for my parents. And here I'm here sitting here with you. I'm like, man, that wasn't on me. That was divine intervention. This was supposed to happen. This conversation.
Wow. Wow.
So, but you got.
And without further ado, you guys, thank you guys so much for joining us for Making the Case. You sending messages, sis, and I hope that people are out there to hear it. I want to thank you
I hope so too.
for joining us. You guys,
You're welcome.
part of the tribe. That means, of course, reach out to her. I said again, don't
Oh,
just
yes. Yes,
I want you
please
guys,
do.
how can they follow you on Instagram?
I'm at Kendra J Coaching. That's my Instagram handle. I'm also go to my site and sign up to be a part of my email listing. I'm getting ready to send out my newsletters to everybody, and so in my newsletter, I give you tips and strategies, and I talk about the supplement of the month, all of that. I have a guide on how to deal with overthinking. You can download that. So yeah, reach out to me if you have any questions or anything. I have no problem helping you or answering your questions, or at least steering you in the right direction
And
and giving you some information. I love it. I love giving, talking and giving people stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will answer back.
that? You hear that?
I
You hear
will,
that, Alex?
definitely.
You
I'm
hear
not
that,
one to
Kendra?
tell you, oh, reach out to me, and then you don't hear
Fella,
anything back.
hey,
That's not
you know
me.
Fella Bella gonna reach out to you. You already know that. She probably already sent you a message already. But I hope you guys feel empowered after this session. I hope you
Yes,
guys
I hope
realize that
so
you
too.
need to take the wheel. But when you take that wheel, you have to also realize that you have one mouth and two ears. That means you need to listen to yourself. Listen to what you need to be your best
Hmm.
version of yourself. You
Hmm.
have the power to change it. Like you
Yeah.
said, you come too far to go back now. And so, sis,
Hmm.
thank you for joining us. Hey,
You're
you guys out
welcome.
there, we're praying for you. We're preaching for you. We're
Yes,
rooting
we
for
are.
you. You have a tribe of people that's here to support you. Reach out.
Yes.
Continue to fight for your lawyer dreams. We're praying for you again. Peace and blessings.
Yes.
Thanks, Kendra.
You're welcome. Good night.